everyone. Welcome to this episode of Fit Fueled Female. I am so incredibly excited about this episode, not just because it is episode number 10, which is wild, but also because I have such a special guest with me. You know, those people you meet randomly, and within minutes, it feels like you've just known them forever? That was this moment. Two strangers on a plane talking nonstop from wheels up to touchdown. And by the end, her daughters had taken our photo and dubbed us plane besties. What they didn't know, though, is that I really needed that moment. I was anxious that day, per usual, about flying, about life, and about this pull I'd been feeling to create something meaningful, even though I wasn't sure what it would become yet. I didn't know if it was just a podcast or what. I just knew I wanted to build something rooted in passion and purpose. And somehow, this complete stranger calmed me down just by being exactly who she is. The kind of woman who radiates purpose, who listens deeply, who tells the truth, even when it's hard. As we talked, she told me her story about walking away from a corporate job with a steady paycheck to chase a dream she couldn't shake, opening her own fitness studio. She had no perfect plan, no financial safety net, no idea how she'd make it all work, but she did it anyway. Through seasons where she couldn't pay her bills, through the weight of being a mom and provider, through instability, fear, and figuring out all in real time, her story isn't shiny, it's real, it's messy, it's everything Fit Fueled Female stands for. And the best part, it came into my life at the exact moment I needed it and gave me the final nudge to stop planning and just start. So it means so much to me, more than she probably knows, to have her here now helping me celebrate episode number 10. So today, I'm so excited to bring her story to you, the one that started 30,000 feet in the air and stayed with me ever since. Caroline Gibson Jones is the co owner of McClure Fitness in Bentonville, Arkansas, a place that's more than just a fitness studio. It's a community, a movement, and a reflection of the grit and heart she brings into everything she does. She left the comfort of corporate life to chase something that lit her up, not knowing exactly how it would unfold, but trusting that it mattered. And what she built, y'all, it's incredible. But what I love most isn't just what she created, it's how she did it with courage, with honesty, and with the kind of resilience that doesn't always get talked about, but is often the key to everything. Caroline, welcome to Fit Fueled Female. I am so glad you're here.
Okay. Hi, Kristen. Thank you so much for having me today. And, I feel the exact same way. I think the universe works in really cool ways. For example, that flight, we were flying to Phoenix for a gymnastics competition, and I had two of my daughters, and neither one of them wanted to sit by a stranger on the plane. So I decided I would take one for the team. And that sat me next to you. And yeah, we talked from wheels up to wheels down, and that conversation stuck with me as well.
Oh, it was amazing. Thank God it was a somewhat lengthy flight because we had a lot to talk about. Before we dive in, I would love to hear your take. What do you remember about that day we met on the plane?
Well, for the first thing I remember is it was the day after that American airline.
Yeah.
Um, with the helicopter, there was the in DC, the crash the
Yes.
day before. So I think all of us had really high emotions and a lot of anxiety getting onto that flight. And I know you and I both were feeling a little bit anxious, and I could tell that you were anxious before I even spoke to you. And I don't necessarily remember what got us talking, but I do remember that feeling of just, okay, there's someone here next to me. I feel like I need to talk to her. Um and I think immediately I knew that you were in town for work. And I don't know if we somehow got on the conversation of fitness, what got us there, but that's when I think that's what got us into the conversation of my business and just us, diving into the layers of, okay, who are you? What do you do? Why are you in Bentonville?
Yeah.
Who are you? Why are you leaving Bentonville? Where are you going? And I don't know. It was just very natural conversation with you, which was really cool because you really don't get that with complete strangers.
No, you don't, and people who know me will laugh because I am, I am definitely a nervous flyer. I do it, gosh, 3 weeks out of the month, but I try really hard not to be a visible nervous flyer, but I think on that day, it was way too hard just considering, all of the things, like you said, that had happened. So, yeah, it was noticeable, but I very much appreciate you because you not only turned a lot of things around for me like we talked about, but you helped calm my anxiety, so
Well, yes, you helped my anxiety as well. I probably hit it more. I was trying to be strong for my girls because they were nervous as well.
yeah, you have to be when your kids are with you. That's another layer.
Yes.
So, I really would love to start from the beginning. Tell everyone what you were doing before you made the leap into fitness and what started stirring in you that made you feel like something needed to change.
Yeah. So I am a mom of five. I have five daughters. My youngest is five, my oldest is 15, and I recently just turned 41. So, in my 30s, I was having babies, raising babies. I became a mom at 25, and I've always worked. I mean, I've worked since I was 16. I've always had some kind of job, multiple jobs at once. That's really just the kind of person I am. I love working, I love having a purpose. But I had worked for the same company for 18 years, and COVID came 2020. I think we all lived through that in some form or fashion, trying to survive. And I had just had my last baby in December of 2019, and I had decided I was not going back to that job. My husband and I had actually started a trucking company a few months prior to me giving birth, and it was going really well. And so that kind of gave me the courage, like, okay, I'm going to quit my job. This is going really well. This is what I'm going to do. And then COVID hit. My husband lost his full-time job. We lost our trucking business. And so neither one of us had a job. And
Mm.
I had been a client at McClure Fitness in Benton for several years up to that point. So I really dove head over heels into my fitness journey. I had just, had a baby. So I had 50 pounds to lose, but we were home. Um, we couldn't leave. I couldn't go to the gym. So who is now my business partner now, Marietta, McClure, really was a genius when it came to keeping the gym open during that time. A lot of gyms did not make it. And she was renting out spin bikes. She was hosting classes in her garage, doing everything she could to keep the money coming in. And so I really admired her business and work ethic just as a client because I was still able to get my workout on and I was still able to leave the house and go be around other people. And that was one of my first impressions of her as a business owner. Like, she's pretty impressive. And we did not get to restart our trucking business. I actually accidentally started an art business. That was my working out, and art was my therapy. I'd also lost my dad during that time, and I'd already lost my mom. And so I just was really trying to figure out, okay, what are my passions now that I'm not working full time? And long story short, my husband got transferred. We kind of came out of the COVID fog. I was still now just a stay at home mom that was painting on the side and still, I was working out. I did become an instructor at McClure in Benton. I decided, okay, this is not really in my budget to continue paying for this membership. So, what are my other options? Well, I really like working out. I really like people. So, it just made sense for me to reach out to Marietta and say, hey, do you need another instructor? And it was perfect timing because she did. She needed a new bar instructor. And I happen to love bar. That was my bar and cycle. Spin's actually trademarked, so we call it indoor cycling, but were my two favorite classes. So I got certified to become a group fitness instructor and started teaching. And I honestly was so mad at myself I had not started it earlier, but that became my passion. I loved teaching and I was able to shed those 50 pounds. I was feeling so much better. I'm like, okay, I am the best version of myself when I feel my body and I work out, I move my body, and my kids are seeing me make these really good, healthy decisions. And they were going to the gym with me, they were working out with me. We had free childcare, so I could take them with me every time. And so I just love the concept of the gym where I was teaching and also a client. So then my husband ended up getting transferred for his job, and that's what landed us in Northwest Arkansas. And I was looking for a place to work out, possibly teach that was similar to McClure. And what made McClure so cool was the different modalities. So it wasn't just bar, it wasn't just Pilates, it was a little bit of everything. We had boot camp, we had lift classes, which are just strength training, we had Pilates, we had bar, we had kickboxing, hip hop cardio. There was really any kind of group fitness class you could think of, McClure had. And I was looking for a place up here that had the same thing, and I couldn't find it. So Marietta had announced that she was wanting to franchise. And my husband and I were actually in this cute little town called Eureka Springs for like a little date weekend. And I'd had a few mimosas. And liquid courage gave me the ability to text Marietta and say, hey, I'm not sure if this is something I really want to do because, like you said earlier, it's scary. Even thinking about opening a business. But I said, just send me the information. Let me look it over. Let me talk to Austin about it. Um, and, I'll get back to you. So that was in March of 2023. And by June of 23, we had a LLC, we had a business plan, we were ready to go. I think we already had a space. So
Isn't it amazing? Like, from the beginning of that story to now, I have so many things I could peel back on because you mentioned along all of that, that you could show your girls that you were choosing healthy choices.
yeah,
Girl, you were choosing healthy, powerful, bold, create courageous. Like, the blueprint that you are demonstrating to your girls is incredible. I mean, just
thank
think
you.
of all of the things that roll into that, and you made this decision, like, I think what's so cool to me is you made a decision, "I'm not going back to this job." You had not really a true sense of what you wanted to do, you had some passions, and you basically just went off of your passions, and you were like, "I'm gonna figure out a way to make this work," and then you dove into something when you didn't have a lot of stability around you from sort of financial. I mean, you had obviously family stability, which we could argue, and faith are the most important things to have. But you made all of these bold, powerful choices, almost not knowing what the result was going to be, but you felt it inside you that everything was going to be okay. I mean, there's so much to this story that you just followed what you felt you should follow versus following the, "Oh, I can't do this. I've gotta just stick to my unhappiness because
Mhm.
I've gotta be financially stable and keep my family going." Like, you just leapt, and it's so incredible to me. It touched me when we spoke on the plane, but it's just touching me so much more now because I have different perspective over the past several months it's been
Mm,
met, and almost in a similar point in my life of thinking about the future, we talked about this, right? And I just it's so inspiring, and I want everyone to just really let your story sink in because you just made some decisions that you had to make for you, and you didn't know where it was gonna lead, but you knew that you
yeah.
had to make.
I want to also add, when I was still, before we had moved, so I have, there was a girl here. Her name's Christina LaCure. She's a ex professional golfer, and she is now a confidence coach, business coach, and she had worked with Marietta, my business partner, my cousin, who also has a podcast and used to be on the radio and kind of a local celebrity in Little Rock, Arkansas. But she's a powerhouse too. And another good friend of mine who is a CEO of her company. And just these are really amazing powerhouse women that had worked with Christina. And so I knew we were moving to Bentonville. I didn't know what I was going to do. This was before the gym was even an idea. And I thought, well, maybe I'll do my art business full time. I just knew I didn't want to go back to the 8 to 5 working for someone else.
Mhm.
Um, and so I made the investment to work with Christina. But when I made the investment, it was for my art business or what I thought was going to be my art business. And I put a deposit down. I think that was in December of like 22, December of 22. And I started working with her in July of 23. Once I knew that the gym was that was my plan. I still needed somebody in my corner to kind of help cheer me on because I knew deep down, like I wanted to do it, but I was scared, right? Like it's scary. And my husband was also scared and I love him to death. And like now, like things are better. But at the time he was way more nervous than I was. And I just knew that he was probably not going to be the person I needed to keep me going. So Christina was great. And one of the best pieces of advice that she gave me was just to have the confidence
Mhm.
to do the hard thing and to make the decision. Be bold in your decisions. What do you have to lose? If you're not going to make any changes in your life if you don't try. So
Yeah.
I really give a lot of my success to Christina and just that she really helped me in my decision making and confidence in my decisions. So having a business coach or a confidence coach are definitely good investments if you are the type of person who feels like maybe you need that little nudge.
I think there's a lesson there, right? Because we often get to a point when we make these decisions and we think we can do it on our own. And then we get so frustrated when we come up against something that, maybe we didn't know how to do, or we all have imposter syndrome at one point, or we lose our sense of confidence. And having someone to help support you is so important. But I think the bigger piece of this is you recognizing that you need help. I've been in this situation, whether it's been in my career or you think you can do it, and when you don't ask for help, you almost fall so much deeper than you would if you just raised your hand and asked for help. And I think that you see that when you ask for help, you see the reward of that. But sometimes it's so hard for us to get over that hump of, I've made this decision, I'm really bold, I'm going to go do this. And we think we have this perception, hey, we can figure this out, but we don't take a step back and say, "Hey, I think we need to really think about who needs to be in our corner and the people that we need to help us," because we don't know it all, right? When we're going into something
Uh-huh.
new, we're not sure. And so to really stack yourself up with that type of support and also be knowledgeable that, hey, these are the people that I really need the help from versus the people that maybe not be the help that I need, right? My husband's gonna be my support system, but he may not be exactly the help that I need for this piece of my equation. And really recognizing that and being aware of that is I think just admirable, but just so incredibly important.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think a lot of times you'll realize that the people you think are going to be in your corner are not
Mhm.
going to be in your corner. The owner of Spanx, I can't think of her name, but the girl that started Spanx, there's a really cool podcast about her story. But when she had the idea, I think she was selling fax machines and she was always in heels and like that's kind of where the idea came from. But one of her biggest pieces of advice is if you have an idea to keep it close to you, don't tell everybody because if you are a non-confident person, you may have a lot of naysayers say, well, I just don't really see you doing that," or "That's a crazy idea." "Really?" And
Yeah.
then you listen and you don't do it. So I think that's a really good piece of advice for people that are thinking about something. Don't go and tell everybody because you may get talked out of it. And look,
Yeah.
she's doing amazing. So, um,
Yeah.
finding that those people that are in your corner that are going to support you.
Yeah, and slow rolling it, I think is what I'm hearing too of, little by little, because the more you open up, the more you just leave room for naysayers or for people who may even just give you the wrong advice. And so
Good.
there's you have to really kind of stair step it. And I think that's so true. Caroline, one of the biggest things I've taken from your story, and it really stuck with me, is the idea that grit isn't always glamorous. It's not Instagrammable. It's late bills, it's uncertainty, it's nervousness, it's lack of confidence, it's doing the hard thing anyway, as you just said. So, kind of brings me to lesson number one. Grit isn't glamorous, but it's everything. So, what did grit look like for you in those hardest seasons? How did you keep going when it felt like everything around you or people around you were saying, "This might not work"?
Well, so like I said, I was moving to a new town where I knew no one, and no one knew who McClure Fitness was. And so I did feel a lot of pressure to just get myself out there. And again, this is where Christina came in and really helped me with that confidence of attending every single event that I could, any kind of networking event, going to anything that I was invited to. I did have one friend that I went to college with who invited me to every Christmas party, Halloween party, which I was so thankful for. But I was taking every piece of merch and postcards, anything that I had with McClure Fitness, I took it with me everywhere. I was
Mm.
going around to businesses, local businesses, taking in cards. Hey, can I leave these here? Really stepping outside of my comfort zone. The whole summer before we opened, I interviewed, I don't even know how many people, tons of people for instructor positions. And honestly, that was really hard because typically in Benton, she would convert clients to instructors like I had. They knew the vibe, they knew the culture. But again, nobody really knew who McClure, what McClure was, who McClure was. It was just another gym. So I was just trying really hard to, get our vibe out there and get for people to understand like the culture that I was trying to bring to Bentonville. And it was a lot of grit. It was a lot of being uncomfortable. And I think that's one thing that, you cannot change if you don't get uncomfortable. And I've grown so much confidence wise. Just I can now go up and talk to anybody, which I mean, I like people anyway, but to go into a business and say, "Hey, I'm new here. Can I give these to you?" That was outside of my comfort zone. And just late nights doing all the research of, coming up with pricing, coming up with the pay scale, coming up with, we couldn't charge the same in Bentonville as we did in Benton. So there was just a lot of research and lack of sleep. And again, yeah, just the fear, it will eat at you, and stress, making sure that we stayed on a timeline. We had a huge build out that we were doing as well, staying within our budget. All of that was, again, I just had to have faith that I was making the right decision. And I was so confident in the product that was McClure, again, because it wasn't new to me, but I just had to make sure that I could bring it to Bentonville and for everybody else to see that.
You almost had to open up a whole nother version of yourself, and you were shifting your mindset through all of this too. I mean, You think of your corporate life and what you were doing then to having to now go market this business and put yourself in such uncomfortable situations. I can resonate. There are times where you've got to go into a group of people that you just don't know, but you've got to go work the room. And for me, I sort of sit there, whether it's in my car or whatever, and I'm just like, okay, girl, you got this. And you just kinda turn it on, right? And you just force
Mhm.
yourself to do what you have to do, and over time, I think it comes naturally, but those first couple times, you've also got, like, this doubt in your head, "Well, what if I don't do it right?" Or, "What if people think this?" Or there's so many things that are swirling around that you've just gotta push through and get uncomfortable, like you said.
Fear, I think, is a good thing. I think fear will, if you're driven enough and if you want something bad enough, it's good to be nervous. I think
Mhm.
sometimes you can go confident, overconfident, and blow it. And so I think if you're just true to who you are and be transparent and just, again, be yourself, but, believe in yourself, that you can do anything. But yeah, being uncomfortable is definitely part of it.
Were there any moments where you seriously thought about giving up? And if so, what kept you grounded?
Yeah, there's been a lot of times there. I mean, and there's still days that I'm like, why did I decide to do this? But those days are few and far between because that's just like any job, right? There are days that are going to be really hard. There's going to be days that are tougher than others, and of course, with me having 5 kids, my home life is really busy too. There are some days where life at home is a lot, and I still have to make sure that I'm taking care of the business. Maybe we've been open a little about a year and a half now, so things are starting to break, and I'm having to replace things, and that can be stressful. But again, I just remind myself that I'm so grateful that, first of all, that I had the opportunity to do this because I know that that is not everybody has the opportunity to do what I've been able to do. And that's just come with the growth in time. Like with my husband, he works so hard to provide for us. And so I am really grateful for him. And we've not always been in this position that we're in now. But yeah, I just have to remind myself that I am creating a legacy for my girls. And this isn't just about me, that is about them too. And for them to see me working hard to take care of my clients, to take care of my employees, and to take care of my space. And that's what keeps me going. And I love teaching. I love
Mm.
fitness. And teaching is definitely my passion. I love pouring into people. And so that's really what keeps me going. So even on the hard days, my hard days really are not that hard when I stop and think about it. I just, we all get overwhelmed. We all get a little stressed out. We all get a little anxious. But when I stop and like take a deep breath,
Mm.
so I tell my clients, in through your nose, out through your mouth, everything's
Yeah.
okay. And then
Yeah.
I just go back to what brought me to why I wanted to do this in the first place, which is teaching
Which is
fitness
why I
classes.
Which is why I think the passion part is so important if you're gonna venture into something because that becomes your foundation, your why, right? Whenever days get tough, if you don't have that passion inside of you, and this is just, for those listening, take an inventory of your life, right? And say, am I passionate about what I'm doing? And if I'm not passionate, it's so hard to get through on those hard days because it almost becomes I'm trying to get through something I'm not even excited about. And so what keeps you grounded from what I hear is you started this on a passion. You started this on something you love. And when those days get hard, you go back to that passion as your why and it gets you through.
Yep, exactly. And I remember the other reason I started this is because I did not want to go back to what I was doing before. Even though my hardest days now don't compare to my hardest days then. So I have to go back and remind myself that. And but yeah, it is. It all starts, it's all because of the passion. And I truly love and adore my clients who they need the gym more than I do. There are some
Yeah,
days that they're coming in, they're going through things, and I'm just so grateful to be a safe space for them.
I love that. I wanna shift into the permission to start messy and imperfect. We've kinda touched upon it a little bit, but this really leads me to lesson number 2. You don't need a perfect plan to start. You really just need a reason. And something else you've shown me, Caroline, is I think so many women need to hear that you don't need to be perfect, and you just have to have that passion. You just have to have that reason. When you first opened the studio, what did you not know? And how did you figure it out along the way? And what advice would you give to someone who feels this nudge but keeps thinking to themselves, I'm not ready because I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just not ready. I would love to hear your perspective on that.
Well, I will say, I mean, I think there was a lot I didn't know going into even the decision to go to open. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and I am so grateful for Marietta because she had 9 years of experience already. So the McClure and Benton had been open for 9 years already. She had kind of gone through
Mhm.
some of the hard stuff, and I will say I am lucky in that not everybody has that. You know, you may have a partner that you're opening something with, but you're both going into it blindly. So Marietta was definitely, I kind of leaned on her a lot with, okay, should we do this? Should we do that? One thing I didn't know, and maybe I'm just naive, you know, advertising is so expensive. And we really rely on social media, which is free advertising. So we really dove hard into making reels and TikToks and staying relevant on social media. Um, but yeah, I was so naive in, we got invited to go on a TV show or like a morning show. And I was so excited. I was like, oh, that's awesome. They want us on TV. And I called Marietta. She goes, they're going to make us pay to do that. And I was like, oh, really? We have to pay? They asked us. Yeah, it was going to be $1,000 to be on a morning show segment for 30 minutes. And so I think if I had not had Marietta to kind of guide me through some of these decision making events, I would have probably made some bad decisions. I probably would have spent money I didn't need to spend, advertising wise, because again, they're salesmen too. And so, yeah, there was a lot of things as far as like advertising and marketing that I had no idea how to do, no idea how to use Facebook to advertise and how you can niche down. And so, those are a lot of things I've learned along the way. But yeah, I really have to give it back to Marietta in being the one that has kept me grounded and helped me um, say no to things that I've wanted to say yes to, and and how to be a boss.
Hmm.
That was a new experience for me. And I have 17 instructors now, which I think is just amazing. And they're all incredible. And we are now a well oiled machine. But it was tough in the beginning for me to be that role because I want to be everybody's friend. I'm a 9 on the Enneagram. I'm a people pleaser. That was another reason why I hired Christina to give me the confidence to be the boss that I needed to be and not this mean boss, but to be in control and to make the best decisions for the company. And so those are things I'm still learning every day. But I'm very grateful to have an amazing staff that makes being a boss really easy.
I remember that it was something you were sharing with me when we were on the plane of just you sort of fell into leadership and this new type that you had never really been into, and there were so many things that you had to figure out, and I thought it was just such a great conversation because whatever job you have and when you're promoted into that next space and maybe you start your leadership career, there's always so many things that blindside you and being a leader versus being a peer and how do you navigate that? And then when you stack on top of that your own business, there's just so much more at stake. And so
Mhm.
I think what I hear from you is find your Marietta,
Yeah.
find your because you have to know that you're gonna have a blind spot, and being aware of that, like we talked about earlier, is so incredibly important. But I think what I'm also hearing from you is you just you exude this sort of you keep talking about you wanted Christina for your confidence, but when I look at you from the outside looking in, I'm like, you must have had all the confidence in the world to get this thing going because you pushed through the unknown. And I'm sure you battled it internally without many people seeing that side. But what I'm hearing is you just kind of started. You were like, I may not have this all figured out, and I'm probably going to run into things I don't know, but I've got my Christina and I've got my Marietta, and I don't know what I don't know, but I'm not going to let that stop me. And it's amazing.
Yeah. And I think that's probably just the main thing that I want people to hear and to understand and I is probably what I was trying to tell you that day on the plane. Is that you don't have to have it all figured out before you just decide to do it. Because you will, you'll figure it out along the way. And there will be people in your lives that will help you. It's just finding those right people that will push you. And, it's good to have someone that you can bounce ideas off of and tell you, like, maybe that's not a good idea. Maybe it's great. But, and also you can fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with faking your confidence. And that, again, that was something that Christina really helped me with. I'd be nervous about walking into a room full of people that I didn't know or taking meetings with people that I didn't know. She was like, just do it. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. And this is a really good icebreaker, a little tidbit she gave me. Walk into a room and imagine that everybody is intimidated by you. That
Yeah.
will give you the ability to go up to talk to someone that you would never talk to.
Love that.
Again, it's not about believing that, it's about just pretending and
Right.
imagining. And then you're not the person standing there not talking to anybody. And that's what I did, and that really helped me be able to just go up to people and say, "Hey, I'm Caroline, nice to meet you," and starting conversations with people. And then when you're in the networking, you start networking with other small business owners, you'll really connect yourself with people that are gonna be in your corner. And that's what's really cool about just the networking space too, and putting yourself out there.
I love that. It's like you're claiming your power, and I think that's amazing. Something else I want to talk through too, and I think so many women need to hear this as well, is that yes, having a support system matters when starting something new and taking that leap. And you've talked about this external support system, which I agree, I think is important that it's almost not in your network sometimes because they give you that. I mean, look at us, right? You gave me raw, true, real advice that I'm not sure I would have taken from somebody I spend time with every single day. And so having someone outside of your circle help you through this, I think is so important. But I also remember you telling me how hard this was on your family at certain times throughout the onset. And you also shared how your husband stood by you and maybe didn't always know how, but supported you through it. I always say, and this may be controversial to some people, but behind every strong woman is a strong man who's confident enough to step aside and let us shine. And I would love to know, how does his support, or maybe even your loved ones in general, help you keep going through the hardest parts?
Well, so I really did struggle in the beginning with just being a burden, and mainly with needing help with the kids while I was out chasing this dream, networking meetings. And that first summer we were here, we were actually having to live with his parents because we were not in a house yet. And it was a huge burden on them, and I felt so guilty. But they were wonderful, and again, I realized that that was more my problem than their problem. That whole idea of us projecting.
Yeah.
And so I had to realize that what I felt was being a burden. I wasn't. They were just genuinely wanting to help me chase my dream. There have been some days that Austin and I haven't really aligned on goals. But at the end of the day, he supports my vision and he supports um, my dream. And all businesses take time to build up. And I think I just thought in the beginning that, I was going to have 100 clients that first month. I really was naive in,
Yeah.
in knowing, like, how long was it going to take to build up my clientele. And so, now that we've been in it a little while, I now have a better sense of what that means and what it takes. But he has been so patient and I mean, he financially supports me and the girls, so that is also my number one, like, thank you. But he doesn't, he just lets me do what I'm doing, and, there's times when I need help at the gym for certain things, just like this week, I'm like, "Hey, I can't reach the filters. What can you do to help me?" He bought me a ladder, and he brought me some filters home. So, he does what he can, and he's just there when I need him, and and he doesn't overstep. He doesn't try to tell me what to do. I may have a situation and I'll bounce ideas off of him. He's a manager. He manages employees as well, and so we'll have conversations about, maybe I need to handle something this way or that way. But yeah, he's there as if I need him, and it's a journey we're both on, but he lets this be my thing, which I really love that he doesn't try to micromanage me at all. Like he just is there for anything that I need him to be. So,
I love that. I
yeah,
love
I
it.
agree with that.
It's a team.
It's a
So,
team.
yeah. So, moving on to the power move section of my episode, I always like to give the audience something real and actionable to take away from the lessons in the conversation. So, I would love to hear from you. What's one thing you'd say to someone listening who's sitting in that in between place where the comfort feels safe, but the calling is getting louder? What's what's your power move?
I think I've already, kind of touched on it. It's just making the decision to do the thing. Be bold, be confident, even if you're not feeling confident, fake the confidence and just do it. I think sometimes we overthink decisions, right? Like we look at all the pros and all the cons. I think some of the most bold moves I've made in my life have been spontaneous,
Mm.
in a sense. I will say in college, I was a general business major. I always knew that I wanted to own my own business. I just didn't know what kind of business. When I was 18, I really had no idea what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I was an esthetician at one point, and I was like, maybe I'll open my own spa. Well, that really wasn't my passion. After I did it for a while, like, this isn't really what I want to do forever. Then I worked in I was a pharmacy manager for 18 years, um, the last 10 years, but I definitely knew that that was not my passion. That is not something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I think it starts with passion. And how can you turn your passion into something that makes you money?
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, right, it's about making money too. I mean, we don't start a business to just not
Yeah.
make money. So how can you turn your passion into something that you love and you'll want to continue doing for the long haul? And then I would also say just take the meeting. You
Mhm.
never know where a meeting's going to lead. That's one story that I haven't shared yet, but I took a meeting with a girl to go back to the advertising. Like everything costs so much money. And There was a magazine, a local magazine, or it's called the Scout Guide, and there's a bunch all over the country,
Mhm.
in local cities, and they're all about small local businesses. But it costs a lot to be in the Scout Guide, and I told her, unfortunately, it's just not in my budget right now. We were not even open yet, and um, we took the meeting. We really connected, kind of like you and I did on the plane. And her
Mhm.
name's Lauren Anderson. She's amazing. So I was like, I have to politely decline joining the Scout Guide, but I really loved meeting you. Well, that conversation led to her asking me to be on a panel of women for the Scout Guide annual women's brunch. I was
Mhm.
on a panel of women with all these other local business owners that have established businesses
Yeah.
in Bentonville and talking about imposter syndrome. I had major imposter syndrome. I felt like I should not be on this panel. Who am I compared to these women? It was an amazing experience. I got several clients from that, being on that panel, met so many people at that brunch. And then just a couple months later, she asked me to be a contributing editor for the Scout Guide. And so I've been doing that for this past year. And in return, I get free advertising for the gym. So you just never know what opportunities are out there. And so I just always say, take the meeting, meet the person, make the connection, and you never know where it's going to lead. And from that, I've made many other connections. There's another magazine I'm now contributing for in
Wow.
return for advertising. So there are ways to get what you want if you're able to give and receive.
I love that. It's just because you think that you can't, you never know what a conversation can change. And so just get out there, go have it. The worst that can happen is that you both agree that this isn't the right thing and you walk away and you've had a really good cup of coffee or a really good glass of wine. The best that can happen is exactly what you shared, which is just being open minded and again, being bold. I love it. So now moving to the wrap up of the episode, what's been fueling me lately? Last question, Caroline. What has been fueling you lately?
My latest fuel are my LMNTs, electrolyte drinks. I have to have one every day. It helps give me my energy to start the day, and it definitely fuels my workouts. And I'm a big Pilates girl, so I'm a big fan of Pilates right now. It's my workout of the summer.
I love it. Caroline, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your story just so openly. I truly believe you were put in my life for a reason. And that conversation on the plane, as I said, came at the exact moment I needed it. And it's amazing to think that now here we are. You are such a beautiful example of what it means for women to lift other women up, and we need more of that in this world. You're strong, you're grounded, and truly beautiful inside and out. To everyone listening, if you're anywhere near Bentonville, Arkansas, go check out McClure Fitness. It's not just a gym, it's a community that Caroline has built, as you've heard, with heart and hustle. And Caroline, I can't wait to take a class there one day.
I can't wait for you to either.
I got it. And then we can go have a glass of wine. But you're not just a bold business owner, you're a mom who's shown up through the hard stuff, a partner who's stuck through, gosh, all the unknowns, and a woman who kept going when it would be easier to quit. And that is what makes you beautiful inside and out. Caroline, again, thank you so, so much. You've truly left a mark on me, and I think now on this community too.
You're very welcome, Kristen, and I am so proud of you as well. I'm very grateful for that meeting, and I can't wait to see what unfolds in your life.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, that's it, everyone. This wraps our episode 10 of Fit Fueled Female. As always, stay fit, stay fueled, and stay you.